Hey everybody, I wanted to make a quick video, give some instruction on how the keeper system works. Most of us haven't played in the keeper league before, so this is all very new. So I thought maybe a little walkthrough would be good. First thing, I went ahead and put the keeper rules in the chat for 2024. You can see that if you go to the chat box, whether you're on the app or on the desktop right now. For purposes of this video, I'm doing it from the desktop sleeper app. You'll see the league chat is generally always here on the right. There's a push pin up here in the top right, which will filter to only the pinned posts, and I made the keeper rules a pinned post. So those will always be there. If you're on the app, on the phone, if you scroll up the chat from the bottom of the screen, you'll see the similar push pin icon. You can click that. It will take you to the keeper rules. Also in the pin messages for this year are the payouts, which have not changed from the prior year. So real quick, again, just want to go through, explain how the keeper system works for everybody. I know it's brand new. First time this year we actually have to implement keepers. So just want to go through the rules here as they're posted, and then we'll walk through a little bit more. So again, everybody can keep up to 2 players from your team last year. So as you all may recall, towards the end of the season, maybe right before the playoffs started, I locked everybody's rosters so that basically you couldn't add or drop people after a certain point. And so what you should see when you go into sleepers, you should see that you have all your players from last year on your team. That way you know, okay, well, who did I have last year that's eligible to be kept, right? So that's what you can do. So you start there, you look at your team, and that'll tell you who you have. So if we go and do that here, if I click team, again from the desktop browser, and I scroll down, this is everybody that I had as of the time that I locked teams at the end of last season, right? So you can see all my quarterbacks and running backs, wide receivers, all my bench players, everybody that I had at that moment in time when the rosters got locked. And I had sent out some texts about when that was happening. So if you do the same thing, whether from your phone and on the app there or from the desktop here, you're going to see all your players, right? So you can keep up to 2 players from the people on this roster, right? So then let's go back to the rules here. Keepers have a cost to them. So what does that mean? It means that if you want to keep somebody, that person is going to take up one of your draft picks this year, right? So we're going to draft here in about 3 or 4 weeks. When that time comes, when you go to, when you have your keepers selected, if they cost, say, a 3rd round pick, you will not have a 3rd round pick in this year's draft, right? You will instead have that player that you're chosen to keep will take your 3rd round spot on the draft board. So let's do an example here, right? Let's look at, for fun, Austin Eckler, okay? Austin Eckler, if I click him, right, I just left-clicked him there, it's going to bring up a bunch of information, right? I don't really care about this, but if you scroll all the way down, it gives you the transaction history, okay? So it tells me right here, drafted by me with pick 106, August 26, 2023, right? So last year's draft. So the caveat here, you cannot keep a player who you drafted or who anybody drafted in the 1st round last year. The reason for that is because every player costs last year's draft pick plus 1 round. Meaning, if you take a player in the 3rd round last year and you want to keep that player, he costs your 2nd round pick this year, right? So he was drafted in the 3rd last year. He costs your 2nd round pick this year. So that's last year's draft round plus 1 or minus 1, depending on how you really want to get fancy with it. But basically, it takes 1 higher draft pick. So in this case, Austin Eckler was a 1st round pick. I can't keep him, right? There is no round prior to the 1st round, so he cannot be kept. So Austin Eckler automatically cannot be a keeper player for me. Not that I would want to keep him. Let's look at somebody else. Let's look at Dak Prescott, right? So quarterback Dak Prescott for the Cowboys. Let me scroll down here. Okay, so now you'll see we have a bunch of transactions, right? So originally he was drafted by JT. You can see the bottom here. Pick 9.11, so he was drafted with the 2nd to last pick in the 9th round by JT. He was dropped, added, a bunch of times. Looks like JT really didn't know what he wanted to do with Dak, so he had a little bit of a just in and out there for a while. And then eventually he ended up with me in October. So the way this works, because he was drafted in the 9th round. If I wanted to keep him, he would cost my 8th round pick this year. So Dak would cost me an 8th round pick in 2024. That means when we go to actually draft, if Dak was a keeper for me, when we got to the 8th round, I wouldn't have a pick. Dak would already be slotted in. He would be my 8th round pick, right? So again, he was picked last year in the 9th. He would cost an 8th this year. So let's look at a different player, right? In particular, let's look at Puka Nacua. Now, Puka Nacua, He was a rookie last year, and he went undrafted, right? So if you look at transaction history, it doesn't say he was drafted. Okay, so there's a special rule for players who were not drafted. Players who were not drafted last year, who are kept this year, cost a 10th round pick. So again, undrafted last year, but kept this year, cost a 10th round. So if I want to keep Puka, and I very well may, he will take my 10th round pick this year. Let's look at, let's see if there's anybody else. I think that kind of covers all the scenarios. Tank Dell, let's look at him real quick. Okay, so Tank Dell was picked in the 14th round last year. Chad dropped him. I picked him up. Okay, so because he was a 14th round pick last year, he will cost a 13th round pick this year. And that's pretty much it. That's the entirety of the rules. You can only keep a player for 2 years. So let's say I want to keep Tank Dell this year. I can keep him for the 2024 season. And if I so choose to, I could keep him next year for the 2025 season at an additional round's cost. But after that, I could not keep him any longer. He would have to go back into the pool of draftable players, and anybody could draft him when we get to that draft in the future. So 2 years max you can keep a player. You can keep up to 2 players. You don't have to keep anybody. You can say, I want to throw all my guys back into the draftable player pool and just start fresh. That's fine. You can do that. You don't have to keep anybody. But you can keep up to 2. So you can keep nobody. You can keep 1 player. You can keep 2 players. And that's it. So again, the rules are over here in the chat. If you need help calculating, the cost of a player, just let me know. But again, if you click, on a player, we'll do a different one here, Tajay Spears. You scroll down to transaction history. This one I drafted him in the 15th round. So if I want to keep him this year, he would cost the 14th round. Now, if you're doing this from the app, right? If you're doing this from the mobile app, if you open the app, you go to team, you should see again the list of players. If you click a player in the app, and you can't see this, I'm just walking you through it. You click a player, it'll bring up his sort of player card, and there's going to be 4 tabs kind of in the middle of his player card. The first one is summary, second one is game log, third one is team, and the fourth one is history. If you click history, it will tell you the transaction history. It'll tell you all the stuff that's down here on the screen. So it'll say, drafted in so-and-so round by this person on this date, right? So it'll give you all this information you need to know, okay, well, if he was drafted in the 4th round this year, he's going to cost me a 3rd this year. And remember, it doesn't matter if you drafted the player. So as we saw with Dak Prescott, if I click him again, I didn't draft Dak Prescott. JT did. It doesn't matter, though. All that matters is that he was drafted in the 9th round. That's all we need to know in terms of calculating the cost. That somebody, doesn't matter whether it's me, JT, Chad, anybody, he was drafted in the 9th. That means he cost an 8th this year. If he was drafted by nobody, as we talked about the special rule, then he will cost a 10th rounder. So it's fairly easy to calculate. And again, up to 2 people. That's pretty much it. If you need help calculating the cost of anybody, please let me know. As a reminder, we've set a tentative date for the draft of August 24th, Saturday, August 24th at 1 p.m. It's kind of the same day and time. We've done it for many years running now. The keeper deadline, meaning the day in which you have to tell me who you want to keep, is 1 week prior to the draft. So that would be Saturday, August 17th. So that's 2 weeks from today. You got to let me know who you want to keep. All you got to do is tell me. Just say, hey, I want to keep this guy and this guy. Now, there's one other slight caveat here. You cannot keep 2 players that have the same cost. So, again, let's use Dak as an example here. Dak is going to cost an 8th round pick this year, right? We said, because he was drafted 9th last year, he's going to cost an 8th this year. I cannot keep Dak for an 8th round this year and another player who would cost me an 8th round pick, right? I only have one 8th round pick. So I can't give up 2 different people who would take up that spot. You probably won't have that happen, but just in case. So, again, let me know your picks 2 weeks from today. If you need help, please send me a message. Happy to help. It's super easy once you get the hang of it, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll talk soon. Bye.